A very happy Palm Sunday. Welcome to the Fourth Estate. Charles Mongu Shampagi. And tonight, 31 days since Dr. Besigye was confined at his house, lots of things have been going on. So today, actually, the count is 30 days. The Sunday Monitor wrote the story today and said 30 days since Dr. Besigye was incarcerated in his home. He remains in his home. He complained that people going to visit him, there's a book that police keeps. They register the visitor, their name, where they've come from, the number plate of the car, then they make a call to above, and above clears whether they should enter or not enter. It is Palm Sunday, and we'll be discussing the politics as they are today, but looking also at the noises coming from the Western world. Do they make any sense? Members of the National Resistance Movement, elect MPs of the NRM, have also returned today from a week-long retreat in Chankwanza, the National Leadership Training Institute in Chankwanza, where they've been going through, being prepared for what they're going to do as members of parliament. And also, of course, the twists and turns around the petition of Amama Mbabazi before the Supreme Court. His lawyers made closing submissions that have gotten a lot of people excited, and the wait is on how the Supreme Court makes its decision. We'll be going through that, and of course, one of the other things is the deployment and the patrols that are becoming more and more visible, especially around Kampala, as we move towards the decision of the Supreme Court, and we continue the countdown. To introduce the panel that I have tonight, let me start with my colleague, Ivan Okuda. Ivan, you're most welcome.
Good evening, Uganda.
Ivan is a student at Makerere University, but he's also a journalist working with the Daily Monitor. Moses Kisa, making a return. Moses is a PhD student.
Candidate.
A PhD candidate. And is a columnist. You write regularly, and you're a journalist. But you teach.
Political science.
Political science.
Comparative politics at Northwestern University.
Comparative politics at Northwestern University in the United States of America.
That's right. And
the old man, Onapito Ekomoloit, Corporate Affairs Director, Nile Breweries, SAB Mela. You're most welcome.
Good evening, Charles, and good evening, viewers.
Let me start with something outside of the politics, actually in sports and in football. Liverpool is not walking alone.
And it's my team.
Liverpool is a team. Liverpool is not walking alone. It's been joined by Manchester City in that journey because I think they had a torrid day today. Both teams, Manchester City being beaten by the 18-year-old Rashford, Rashford of Manchester United, and Liverpool gaining a 2-0 advantage and then throwing it away. Yep. Yes. Gentlemen, let me start with you, Ivan Okuda. You cover the news, you follow what is going on. What does 31 days of the incarceration of Dr. Kizza Besigye mean?
I think some of it is Mr. Museveni seems to have gotten tired of this continued pretense around democracy and ideals of civil liberties and human rights, and he seems to find himself in a situation where he can no longer pretend and he has to remove the gloves and go bare knuckles. I mean, nothing explains it apart from impunity. You don't care what the courts will say.
But you could have chosen, if he had gone bare knuckles, you could have chosen to throw him in jail.
But of course,
he hasn't. He has kept him at his house.
Of course, the dynamics have changed so fundamentally from the 1960s, where you could afford to have a presidency running for 10 years without elections. It's balancing so many, interests here and there. But I mean, the whole incarceration of Dr. Besigye speaks to an increasingly shameless despotism.
Let me throw that to Moses Kisa. Are you surprised that a presidential candidate with the profile of Dr. Kizza Besigye on social media, what's been most trending? I think the trouble of social media and people who run the politics is the amazing ability of people to pick up archival material and throw it. So one of the most trending has been a meeting of district leaders where Dr. Besigye, as a very young man, I think in early 30s, addressing as national political commissar, addressing these district leaders, and President Museveni is there, and also Museveni looking very young, and he says, I want to agree with Dr. Kizza Besigye about your problems, and it's been trending all over the place.
Yeah.
And he's been held in incarceration now at his house for 31 days. Does that, in a normal world, does that surprise anybody? But politically, what do you achieve if you incarcerate your opponent? And if you could stretch it a little further for your analysis, you stretch it a little further to what we've been seeing coming out of the former Burma, now called Myanmar, or and Aung San Suu Kyi, because I've had references the same, but I think that's her situation is far fundamentally different from what Dr. Besigye has been going through so far.
Yeah.
Where do you score politically if you do that?
Well, you score in the sense that you succeed in holding at bay your most potent challenger. By incarcerating him, you are disabling him. So for now, General Museveni is able to deal with Besigye by, imprisoning him in his home. So the question is that sustainable? For how long is he going to do that? For how long is Besigye going to be held under imprisonment in his home? I guess the game plan must be that keep him under house arrest till swearing in on May 12th. And then after that, you can deal with him in other ways. This time round, Museveni and his handlers, especially General Kale Kaihura, who as we know has become a highly partisan Inspector General of Police, they must have decided that the best way to deal with Besigye is to keep him at his home, considering the experience of 2011 with walk to work. Because we're having pretty much similar situation as 2011, where you had Museveni win an election, quote unquote win an election. This time around it was a lot more controversial and more contested. I think in the view of many in the public, Museveni actually stole the election. Of course, the matter is in the courts of law, and I don't want to talk so much about the veracity of that, but many Ugandans believe that Museveni stole the election. Compared to 2011, where the thinking was that instead of stealing it outright, he had actually bought it, by deploying huge amounts of monies. But then after the elections, we saw that a president that had just won an election was faced with a breakdown of that victory. The victory went up in thin air with walk to work. Similar thing would happen.
Don't you think that he succeeded in as far as that is concerned? Because we haven't seen demonstrations.
Exactly.
The last time,
yeah.
What people miss out in analysis sometimes is, in fact, is the last time in 2011, the demonstrations were not led by the politicians.
Right, initially.
The politicians came out to sympathize with the demonstrating sections of the public.
Right.
And number two, they were not spontaneous. They broke out after about after a few days, after a few weeks. I think about 2 weeks after the actual election.
Yeah.
So now you've gone 31 days since the elections, 30 days since the elections, and 31 days because I think his incarceration started.
So the plan is to disable Besigye, because Besigye represents those forces that are, enthusiastically opposed to the establishment, and once he's under wraps, once you've kept him out of circulation, you are cooling down the situation and making it difficult for any other person to lead, because Besigye is the face. Once he's out of circulation, it means that you can succeed in keeping everything latent, and not much can come out. So, and then you of course reinforce that with heavy deployment, which we've seen everywhere, and make sure that whoever is interested in doing anything that Besigye would have done if he was out knows that there is a lot of coercive arsenal out there to deal with you.
Let me go to Honor quickly. Honor, you are a communications guru, if I would call you that. Is that a good way to do your public relations?
Well, I think after 30 years in power, they are really there are very few rules that the NRM is living by. So it may be very hard to apply conventional communications, rules, and wisdom to how you have to handle this situation. But I think for me the most important thing is for President Museveni, first and foremost, every conflict is military. That's how he has led his political life and his military life. He knows that every conflict must be answered with maximum force as a bare minimum. And I think Kizza Besigye has really proved a big pain to the president, who at this age now believes that he has done a lot for this country, and he has a lot of people who believe that he shouldn't be challenged, you know, to the extent Besigye has challenged him. And I think maybe time has now really come to try and break down Besigye. And I think the other person was General Sejusa, who has always been put in his rightful place. So I think now the battle lines have been firmly drawn. And remember, the run-up to the election was characterized by serious element of crowds. And if there's anything any politician is scared of, it's numbers and people and crowds.
Yes.
So I think the president certainly and his advisors are not sure how much of these crowds really were just enthusiastic or people who seriously believe that it's time to confront, and you don't want to take chances. And if you keep Besigye at his home and it works as it seems to be working, maybe it's
is it working? This has come up with
it's working in the sense that the government is able to run its business.
Yes, the Besigye team has come up with a few things. One, they called for that day, Thursday, and him in a T-shirt saying, "I can't breathe," and called on people not to open their businesses. Surprising, Rukunjiri town, Mbale the other week, the very first week was Rukunjiri. The second week was Mbale. Then they have come up with Blue Friday, where they're wearing blue. You saw General Mugisha Muntu breaking down and crying. You saw all those people. The Waswabiri was the and the whole team. The Ingrid Turinawes, the mayor of Rubaga Division, yes, of Rubaga Division, Joyce Sebugwao and others, Waswabiri and the others, breaking down and crying. And people are picking these things up and they are tweeting about them.
Well, that can be a strength on their part, but it may also be a weakness on their part, because I mean, crying is sometimes it's human, but at the same time, when you need to show, you shouldn't be seen to be blinking fast. So it's a tight thing for them.
They take the moral.
Yeah, but look, you say, is it working? I think now for the president, certainly you have to show that you're in control. And most of the supporters of the opposition, unfortunately, are also hand-to-mouth survivors. And to be able to sustain this kind of boycott, not going to work, you could easily lose your job, it becomes very difficult.
Moses, let me come back to you on the same issue.
Sure.
Who is winning the battle of public sympathy? Because the NRM, the MPs have been there yesterday. They walked from Chankwanza. It's a traditional thing that Chankwanza has been doing, to walk, to trek to Ngoma, where the war actually started. Yes, to see how things started. We'll go into that. And President Museveni, who is also president-elect, was leading
as he always
that
does.
much. Yes, showing a lot of strength and courage. The question is, when Besigye remains incarcerated and they come up with soft things like prayers, closing your shops, you keep a general dampened mood across the country, and people who sympathize with the NRM wondering and saying, what is going on? Because that's the question. What happened with this election? What went wrong? And you're not taking that away. You're not countering in sufficient measure. Because if someone encounters police and military patrols as the first thing they see, say, are we at war? And then Besigye is still incarcerated, and nothing much is coming out in terms of communication from the other side. And then they're watching court and it's turning out as dramatic as it's tending to turn out after days of you know, this back and forth, Baba's lawyers failing to appear to be making a case, and then the break-ins, people are saying it's an inside job, and you know, all these things. Where does that put the mood of the public? And
I think
who benefits from that?
I think the moral victory goes to Museveni's opponents. Museveni, you know, is on top of things from the point of view of real power and hard power. But in terms of soft power and moral high ground, he lost it a long time ago. See, when you have your opponents desisting from what you would want them to do, which is violent confrontation, then they have taken the rug under your feet. And so for FDC and Besigye to go for, you know, repertoires of contention that of protest that are non-violent, things like, you know, Blue Friday, or, you know, close your shops on Thursday. They're doing something that Museveni would rather they shouldn't do. Museveni would rather that they come at him and dare him in terms of violence, because you see, that is what he's best at.
But also remember, during the campaigns, the message from the FDC and Kizza Besigye in particular was that this time we won't allow a victory to be taken. And I don't think you are saying we shall pray. It was going to be that, no, we shall confront. Actually, what was, we shall confront the dictatorship. The dictatorship can only be defied and resisted. It was not about any other way. So now, what are those supporters?
But the defiance they were talking of, Charles, wasn't you know, violent. Violence.
But gentlemen, let me ask.
Yeah.
I think Wana raises an interesting point. You can't defy by kneeling down and praying. It's not defiance.
No, but there's no one letter rule to defiance. You know, if for example you have a situation where you know, the doctor is incarcerated, and you know, the police force is stopping every single person from accessing him, and you know, there's photographic action going on and videography to whoever is visiting him, you still defy access to him by, you know, resorting to means that again speak to sympathy with him.
Well, I don't know that logic of defiance, because I haven't seen defiance that phrase. There were jokes today that Jesus had been blocked from heading to town, and his donkey had been confiscated. No, towed to Kira Road Police. Yes. Police said he had violated sections of the Public Order Management Act and by not notifying them of his intentions, and there was suspicion that if he moved into town, there would be demonstrations and riots that could lead into destruction. But you see, what I'm trying to drive at is these softer means of protestation are picking up in an era where social media is on fire. Everybody is picking up things and running around. Of course, maybe we'll have an opportunity to discuss the fact that what is coming out, that the shutdown of social media platforms was actually ordered by the Inspector General of Police.
Not surprising.
Yes. We'll come to that in a moment. Let's move on a little and look at the retreat of the NRM MPs in Jankwanzi. People think they only discuss how to extend term limits, how to remove age limit, how to they think they only talk about their salaries and nothing else. But they go through a fairly comprehensive curriculum. Can they walk out of, they walked out today, can they walk out of Jankwanzi and come and wait to be sworn in on 18th February, knowing that they have a government where they have the numbers, but they can actually take charge and redirect the political discourse in this country?
Of course, evaluating how much Parliament can do essentially takes you back to how Museveni, as a person, essentially wants things to run. Because, however, I mean, that Parliament has extremely brilliant people. It has extremely capable people, both in NRM and opposition. But the structure of the politics of the day is such that there's just so much you can do in the circumstances. So, again, the tone of Parliament, the mood and everything will be shaped by Mr. Museveni. I mean, the Speaker of Parliament, Rebecca Kadaga, for example, is moving all over the place, trying to to get a second chance at the speakership. And you saw how the president played this card and said, if you're interested, whoever is interested in the post of speakership should write to the NRM Electoral Commission, then we shall sort it out from there. That completely changed the discussion. And you know, you have Sam Kutesa entering in the competition, you have Jacob Olanyan. So, I mean, that Kadaga incident to me speaks to how much control the president has, and will essentially determine and shape how the next 5 years of that parliament will be. There's just so much they can do, just like the judiciary, just like every other institution of government.
Okay, gentlemen, hold your thoughts. Let's take a quick commercial break, and when we come back, we'll continue the discussion of the NRM MPs coming back from Chankwanzi. What does it mean, and how can they actually take control of the political discourse as it is? We'll be right back. You're still watching the Fourth Estate on this Palm Sunday, and we're discussing the politics heading towards Easter, which will be next Sunday. We're discussing the politics as is, and Besigye has been in incarceration at his home in Kasangati, Nangabo sub-county in Wakiso district for 31 days today. The NRM members of parliament, elect NRM members of parliament, have just returned today also from a retreat, a week-long retreat in Chankwanzi, which is a tradition of the NRM, and I need to make a declaration about this. I was invited to be part of a panel discussion that spoke to members of the NRM on Friday.
At Chankwanzi?
Yes, at Chankwanzi. And we had about 1.5 hours interaction on a panel that had other professionals speaking to them, especially on the aspect of communication.
Right.
And the question I was putting, when they come out of Chankwanzi, can they communicate? The mood is so dampened. The political discourse is clearly outside of the control of the government or the NRM as a political party. FDC is not incarcerated. Besigye is not incarcerated alone. His party is literally also in incarceration.
And we should add, Charles, that
yes,
incarceration is illegal.
Well, there is the illegality of the incarceration of Kizza Besigye at his house.
Yeah.
But the FDC has been rendered almost dysfunctional with Besigye out there. And remember, he's not actually the leader. He's not. He doesn't hold a leadership position in that party.
Right.
Yes. Who is going to take the lead in reshaping the political discourse in this country? Can the NRM do that? Yeah. Or what does it need to do that?
So talking about parliament and the NRM MPs, see, I think the Ugandan parliament was fundamentally watered down by the gerrymandering that we discussed sometime on this show. You have more than 400 MPs in parliamentary chambers that were initially intended to, I don't know, house perhaps maybe 100 MPs or something like that. Previously, when the owners were in that parliament and you had, you know, real serious debate going on, I think you would stand up, talk for like 5 minutes. Now it's impossible. I think the speaker will give you 2 minutes in which to quickly make a point. I don't know how much somebody can say in 2 minutes. You know,
well, they waste a lot of their time agreeing with the previous speaker and then thanking what the minister who has spoken and the prime minister.
So I think
and thanking the president and the chairman of the party.
To expect so much from that parliament, Charles, is to be too optimistic. I personally, I don't want to, you know, be overly cynical, but I don't see a lot coming out of that parliament. And we know the president, his attitude towards parliament is that members of parliament should go there and listen and sit and sleep if they want, but remember to wake up at the right time and vote. But
shouldn't those notions be the ones that get challenged?
Right, absolutely.
The NRM parliament, I mean the parliament that we run between, because there's no dispute about parliamentary elections.
Right.
The dispute is about the presidency. Yeah. How the resolution of the Supreme Court impacts on the other organs is not a discussion for now.
Right.
But don't you think that the NRM has an opportunity now? Because whichever way you look at it, this is a transitional 5 years.
Right.
Constitutionally, Yoweri Museveni, if he survives the Supreme Court, will not be eligible to run in 2021. Yeah. So I wonder what the import of gathering these elect MPs, take them to Chankwanzi, drill them, prepare them, because they have a serious curriculum that they follow. They do some serious stuff when they are out there, from what I learned with my visit there the other day. They have some serious things that they do. But can they now wrest this discussion back from where it is? Take control of it, regardless of who becomes president
Yeah.
or how the presidential aspect of the election gets resolved.
It's difficult, and I don't expect much. You see, at the beginning of the 9th Parliament, we saw something very promising with a new crop of young MPs trying to sort of turn around the way Parliament
With a progressive speaker.
Exactly, with a progressive speaker who was pushed back. She was, you know, in a sense disarmed in many ways, especially after Museveni threatened that he would do something about Parliament, and that, you know, there are certain things that can only happen over his dead body. So you had the president who, in a very aggressive way, pushed back against an attempt by Parliament to reassert
the liberalism of Parliament.
Exactly. I don't see that changing this time around, because you see that the Chankwanzi retreat is meant to capture MPs and basically straitjacket them, panel beat them into the line that General Museveni and the establishment wants, and have them basically toe the line and do whatever you know, the executive wants them to do. So I don't think that that's going to change, notwithstanding whatever other dynamics might be at play.
Honor, your take.
Look, first of all, I think the president was very unfair to these MPs. They needed to catch their breath. These guys are emotional and financially drained. So all these things we are talking, I don't think they even feature in their minds right now. Their bigger worry is, how do you just afford, you know, to keep going before those new ones, before the first salary comes in.
Well, you have kept them away from the people who would be demanding for a week.
So I think they needed a better retreat just to really take a rest. So they are being plunged into something I'm sure their minds are in.
Right.
Some are worried, I think, about becoming ministers, some are thinking about surviving as ministers.
Others
So
have
right
dates.
now, the majority
And
have
pending
dates.
petitions.
Yeah.
So we are discussing a lot that really has bigger problems, but which are more personal than national.
Yeah.
But I think for the president, of course, getting Parliament in line early enough is really what he would love to do. These 5 years are very critical. As you have said, the constitution may have to be amended to remove age limits. If it is not amended, then the succession question becomes a big one. And certainly Parliament may have to play some role, one way or the other, trying to, they represent the country. And if they, as they have played in the past in terms of caucusing, if they go to Chankwanzi and pass a resolution in support of someone, that person's chances will immediately improve. So Parliament is absolutely critical, but not in the way we would think, shaping debate, but mostly in terms of taking the president's vision and making sure that it works.
In these circumstances?
Well, I think in the immediate, I've already
do you think
said.
he can survive, if he survives court, do you think he can survive the public opinion that thinks he actually stole this election?
Look, I think that is already behind the president, so to say. I mean, as far as I know, this whole debate was sorted out. One way or the other, you don't have to like it or like it. I think the president will have his 5 years, and he may have more years.
Okay, let me just have, you talked a little bit about, Ivan talked a little bit about the race for speakership. Your take, where do you think this will go?
Look, I've spoken about this previously. If indeed Honorable Sam Kutesa is in the picture, I wouldn't again be surprised, just given what I was saying, that this term of Parliament is perhaps going to be the most critical in the history of the NRM. One, if you are to have age limit amendment, you certainly are going to still have a lot of debate, especially given the sort of loss of credibility out of these elections. Then you bring again a very contentious issue. So you need a speaker who certainly is not only a legal mind, but also who is politically astute and
political aligned.
Yeah. But even a bigger picture will be if you are to have President Museveni not running in 2021, and you have to have someone succeed him. That really needs a parliament, among other organs, that is headed by somebody who is absolutely close to him and who absolutely understands what he wishes to happen.
I don't know, Charles.
I have had the people racing for that Of course, Jacob Olanya has been around trying to lobby.
Yep.
Rebecca Kadaga is still interested in her job.
Yeah.
Sam Kutesa has denied his interest, but when something is thrown in, you got to take it seriously because you don't know how it will pan out.
Yeah.
I have seen an opposition member of parliament who's expressed interest, I think, in running for the speakership. And there might be some other interesting
Winfred
names.
Nwagaba?
No, not Wilfred Nwagaba. No, I think it was Theodore Sechkubo,
Yes,
who's NRM.
I wants to run for deputy.
He wants to run for deputy.
Yeah.
The race for deputy is going to be more intense, from what I'm hearing.
Okay.
There are more other people who will try to jump in there,
Right.
and how that plays out, we'll wait and see. But of course, even when there is no dispute at that level, the decision of the Supreme Court, which will come out the other week, I think the week after
31st March.
31st March. By 31st March. I don't know if the court has indicated that.
It will be 31st March
31st
because
March, yes.
the petition was filed on 1st March.
Yes, 31st March.
Yeah.
So we can wait and discuss that then after we have a ruling and we know where it's going.
Yeah.
But these other processes are already going on and taking shape.
Right. No, the race for speakership, interestingly, now has rumored Sam Kutesa interested, which makes it a little bit bizarre in many ways, considering that Sam Kutesa is, a member of the first family, member of the extended first family, and you have to ask yourself how far Museveni and his family want to take it in terms of being in charge of the state in Uganda. If Kutesa indeed goes on to become the Speaker of Parliament, the big issue will be exactly that. It won't be about whether he's competent enough to be Speaker, which I think he is. It won't be whether he is the right person to be Speaker. It will be about who Sam Kutesa is. And we know that he's been involved in many controversial things in the course of his being a member of this government. And therefore he has a big credibility problem in terms of his pedigree.
He was in the government shortly before this government took over.
Right.
He was sitting on the other side
That's
during
right.
the Nairobi Peace Talks in 1985.
That's right.
85, yes.
And in 1980 he had run against and defeated.
In 1980 he ran and defeated
his brother-in-law.
Museveni.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes, Museveni.
Right.
Then 1985 he was Attorney General.
Yeah, that's right.
In that government.
For the Okello.
Yes, for the Okello government.
Right.
Then 1986.
Right.
So yeah, based on that CV, logically, logically,
right.
Maybe even Speaker is a small job for him. Logically, maybe
no. Perhaps the Speaker job honor is a stepping stone to the bigger job. Perhaps after Speaker he may succeed his brother-in-law in 2021. And if we're talking about the possible,
we need to check. We also need to check on the age limitations, whether he
perhaps he's still okay.
Whether he's still within.
He might still within.
60s.
He might still within. Yeah.
Sorry.
But Charles, the other thing is that Rebecca Kadaga would have been the de facto person to carry on for speakership. But I think she also at some point stumbled a bit. Initially, she showed that she was courageous and strong enough to stand her own against the pushback by the executive and by the president, but then she eventually sort of capitulated. But then she also got into problems with the kind of her positioning as a national leader. You remember the tribal talk about Busoga and some people from Kigezi and Rwanda cannot come and order the Basoga on how they should select their leaders. Of course, she was aiming at Amama Mbabazi and suggesting indirectly that Amama Mbabazi is not Ugandan, that he's Rwandese. So I think that she scored a rather low point at that stage when, as a rising national leader, she again was, caught trying to position herself as a speaker of Basoga and not a speaker
of the national
Uganda.
leader.
Exactly.
Especially for a person who had been rumored to be having Mbaba's tendencies before the whole thing hit up.
Right.
Yes.
So right now, I think it's not very obvious that she's going to carry on as speaker, partly because I think she lost it at some point. Otherwise, among the opposition, she had endeared herself so well as a compromise, speaker.
As a strong person who can withstand the pressures.
And as somebody who they could work with, who the opposition could work with, a compromise speaker who, even though she's on the other side, but this side of the political aisle, we're looking at her as, she's acceptable to us.
Yes.
I think she no longer occupies that high position that she had at some point.
Do you think this race is going to expand beyond the individuals that we've already heard about? And would that be impacted? Because Yoweri Museveni, the chairman of the NRM, literally put a lead on that discussion by saying, write to the NRM Electoral Commission and it will decide.
So it was premature politicking.
Well, you can't have Ndugurugunda come in. Ndugurugunda, I think, will have to stay on what Onapito talked about. People watching to see who gets what in a new cabinet. But of course, that is a discussion we'll have after the 31st.
I think, again, they say the higher monkey climbs the tree, the more it exposes its behind. Essentially, as Mr. Museveni's presidency.
This is the era of leopards.
as Mr. Museveni's presidency extends, the more Ugandans get to appreciate his thinking, his appreciation of politics, his appreciation of leadership, and when he says, I'm the only man with a vision, perhaps, he looks at all the people that went with the bush, and he's perhaps the only person who's been able to have his family at the front line of politics, with a view to having it influence Ugandan politics even after him. So it's, for me, in that angle that we should view the Sam Kutesa, entry in all this, because Rebecca Kadaga, at any rate, has done an incredibly commendable job. She, of course, once in a while has bad moods and, throws tantrums and, makes some uncharitable remarks about people like Mbabazi and whatnot. But in the first 2 years of her speakership, for example, you saw a very rational speaker. And then the pressure came in. She had a very bitter exchange with Mbabazi that really played nasty with the passing of the anti-homosexuality bill. And then the president, really came out and began fighting her at one point, saying the Speaker of Parliament should not be going dancing around like, a schoolgirl.
That debacle of the
Iyala speaker.
Yes, exactly, yes. So, naturally, she
had a fight with Olanya.
Yes, she had a fight with Olanya.
Yes.
And Olanya was also being used by, by the big boys in the game. So, she naturally...
the big boy himself.
No.
No.
She naturally also had to coil the tail.
He's
and
not.
For me, in those circumstances, I think she did an incredible job. So why ditch Kadaga for Sam Kutesa? It essentially speaks to vision post 2016, expanding to what the vision 2040. How do you have your family, in charge of the army? You have the first son in charge of the Special Forces Command. You have General Samusali in the background. You have, you sort of played that.
But members of the first family can aspire on their own, can't they?
They should, but
which is very fine. But
because remove the tag of the first family connection, Kutesa has equal and incredible CV. We have been talking about it long before he became associated with the first family. He was a key player. Yes,
which is very fine. But we're examining the spirit of his involvement in this, and it speaks to a project of entrenching.
You think he's throwing a stone into a beehive to just see what comes out?
Possibly like what Dr. Awogo did with the NRM Vice Chairperson Western Region.
Let's take a break. When we come back, we'll be looking at the impact of the Western powers, the United States, the European Union. All have been speaking and making statements, and from what we're hearing, President Barack Obama might have sent a special envoy, Johnny Carson. I would love to meet Ambassador Johnny Carson and look him in the eye, because he wrote a stinging article in the Boston Globe.
In 2005.
In 2005.
Yeah.
When he came back to Kampala, towards 2011, he had walked back his words.
Backtracked.
Yeah, backtracked. Now, I'd love to see, I'd love to know what Ambassador Johnny Carson, what kind of discussion and what message he carried for Yoweri Museveni in the capacity of president-elect, and in the capacity of president until the Supreme Court, I mean until the next government is sworn in. We'll be right back after a short commercial break. Does the West matter? If you send Johnny Carson to speak to Yoweri Museveni and Johnny Carson's changing positions over a period of time. And that debate in the European Union Parliament about Uganda's elections and the messages that have been coming out. Let me start with a very, very broad question. And with Peter, does the West matter in the politics as it is today?
Absolutely not. Look, all politics is local, as it's always been said, and that holds true everywhere in the world. President Museveni knows very well that the West is, for lack of a better word, opportunistic. They will watch to see who has the critical mass locally.
Yeah.
And that's where they will most likely go. Look, they wouldn't have jumped to bomb Gaddafi out of life if Benghazi had not happened. Some people had to lose their lives, took a decision in Benghazi. Even Mubarak, they wouldn't have ditched him if some people are not going to Tahrir Square. Look, in Africa here, just hold on.
Hillary Clinton's emails in relation to the bombing of Gaddafi and the role played by France and President Sarkozy is bringing out some interesting revelations. But you can go ahead with
Well,
the submission.
so look, in Africa, there is no leader who's backed the world. I mean, the West would have wished to see fastest than Mugabe. For decades, they have really wished Mugabe out of power, but by now they have almost given up because Mugabe has a solid hold on his people for one reason or the other. But look, at the same time, Professor here maybe knows better the dynamics. The West has absolutely burnt its hands across the world. They are not in position to really shape things in small places like Uganda. And that's why a man like Donald Trump is basically saying he should have left Gaddafi, should have left Saddam. I mean, the world is sick. I mean, let's do our own things. And I think some people are seeing that he has logic. So the West is totally preoccupied with ISIS, and President Museveni, give him his credit, is actually a very knowledgeable and, I mean, his opponents out there will not like this, a very smart person.
He understands the
When
geopolitics.
most Western people meet President Museveni, they actually get surprised by his level of knowledge about not just Uganda, but even their own countries. He really works
Okay.
to try and influence them and often puts them off their step. So I don't think they love him. The Western world does not love him, but they are able to tolerate him.
Okay.
And if he's to be pushed by a critical mass in Uganda, they will be happy.
So what do you think Johnny Carson
But they
was
won't
carrying?
do the job for Ugandans.
What do you think Johnny Carson was carrying for him?
I don't know.
You need to put into context the fact that you need to put into context the fact that, and as Moses Kisa comes in, I hope the production is going to be able to get us through with some phone
but
calls.
just before
We're
it
not able to
comes
get
in,
phone calls last
remember,
time,
right now as we speak, I don't know whether President Obama has left Cuba. I mean, if there is any leader who President Museveni almost mirrors, it's Castro. He has his brother, Castro the old, then he had Castro the young.
Raul.
So I mean, if President Obama and the Americans have embraced such a, you may call it a dictatorship, in the classic Western sense.
It's one of the
Yes,
few
it
still
means-
surviving.
You study in the United States of America, you've been living there for some time. Does the West matter? Because people have been looking. Obama is serving out his last
Yeah,
year in office.
yeah.
November, he's out of office. So
Actually,
he can do...
actually January. but
Yes,
that's when
January.
the swearing
But
is done.
this is the period they say he is supposed to be lame duck. He's trying to break the record by remaining as active as possible. But also this is the time that leaders do things they can get away with if they think that is legacy defining. So when you send the statements that have come out of the United States, of the State Department, of the White House, statements that have come out of the European Union, and the fact that Obama is in a period where he can't lose anything, he can only build a reputation if he does something fundamental. Does the West matter?
Well, the West matters, Charles, but up to a certain point.
You know, Napito said absolutely it doesn't matter.
No, Napito is wrong, and he knows it.
Well, I don't have to be wrong. I just have to be realistic.
I think
for you want to be politically correct.
No.
For me, I'm just saying.
I think what
you think Donald Trump.
I think what Napito meant is that the West doesn't matter as much in terms of local political dynamics and you know, bringing about local political change. You see, the West used to engineer coup d'etats during the Cold War period. The US would find a way of funding coup plots in countries like, you know, Congo, Zaire, Ghana and other places. But you see, the era of coups sort of passed. That was the politics of the Cold War. Today, the United States cannot engineer a coup d'etat in a country like Uganda. First of all, you know, coups have become sort of ostracized as a way of changing government. So
Madagascar is the best example.
Yeah.
A bit suffering with it.
Right. So short of barring the possibility of a coup, what can the US or the European Union do to bring about political change in Uganda? Almost nothing. There is not much they can do.
So when they make those statements, are they just grandstanding?
No, you see, those statements, Charles, we shouldn't read much into them. And I agree with Onapito that, you know, politics in a country like Uganda is very much locally driven. The West will only jump to doing anything substantial once they see that there's a tipping point that has been arrived at, and that Museveni is out of favor, is losing the ground to forces opposed to him. Until that point reaches, for as long as Museveni remains somebody who can show that he's still in charge, especially of the military, because the West's most important interest in Africa, especially the US, is security. You know, the terrorism question in the Horn of Africa, where Museveni has been more than willing to deploy troops there. Another president in Uganda probably wouldn't be as forthcoming and as, you know, easygoing to deploy Ugandan troops in Somalia. Museveni still, you know, gives them the assurance that he's going to do that bidding, but he also needs them. You know, he needs them for. I mean, Museveni, I think, worries about his image outside there, and that's why he has struggled a lot to do PR. And whenever he gets an opportunity, he tries to clarify certain things. So he minds about his image out there, and he needs the West to still be on his side. He still needs their military assistance, military
And
aid.
they still need him.
And they still need him.
Okay.
Yeah.
Does the West matter?
Certainly, yes. I respectfully disagree with my former MP, Onapito.
He's your former MP.
Yes. To the extent that if you just want to have a glimpse at how much the West matters in the politics of the day, you just flip a few pages back to the Anti-Homosexuality Act. And, you know, statements are similar to what we hear now, followed by action, then, you know, tinkering with the foreign aid. You know, we literally had a paralyzed healthcare system. People lost jobs. And before you know, the president had to, you know, get the bill out of the act out of the way.
He made that famous statement. He said, when he went for the UN General Assembly, the Canadian Prime Minister called me. What was he talking about? Homosexuality. Hillary Clinton called me. What was she talking about? Homosexuality.
Yes.
Then Prime Minister Cameroon then. Yes, I think Prime Minister was
So if you want to the West to really pay attention, you need to touch matters of the heart. Matters of the heart.
That example essentially speaks to just how much they can do if they really mean to. I think the statements that are coming out of the United States and the European Union essentially play to the gallery because they have audiences to, you know, back home to appeal to.
Right.
They, you know, they still, you know,
they haven't come out with as strong and as pointed statements as they have with this election.
Yeah, because this election has been fundamentally more flawed than the previous elections.
Right.
You know, the Donald Trump song of "Make America Great Again" is not an innocent slogan. It's shaped by, you know, a feeling in the United States and parts of even Europe.
Okay.
That there is a decline in Western superiority and the need to assert it. You know, so is playing out in statements that we see.
Charles, can I quickly
just
tell you something
before you come
in perspective?
Yes.
You see, in 2010, in the run-up to 2011 elections, the U.S. Congress directed the Secretary of State then, Hillary Clinton, to start filing quarterly reports to the Congress about the Ugandan political situation going into the elections. Hillary Clinton filed one report.
She filed two.
Two.
Yes.
And then July 11 happened, which was the bombing of
Chadondo and
Chadondo
Pepian village.
and Kabalagala by the Al-Shabaab. That was the end of it.
Okay. You know, I'm afraid. Let's pick some callers because we have people who have been waiting on the line to call in. Hello. Hello.
Yes, hello.
Yes, your name and where you're calling from?
Yeah, good evening, comrade.
Good evening.
Yes, my name is Brother Sam.
Your name is?
Brother Sam.
Brother Sam.
Yes, Brother Sam.
Comrade.
Yes, calling from Nebi.
Oh, yes, please. Go ahead.
Yeah, first of all, I want to commend Ndugu Onapito
Thank you.
for being very leveled in the articulation. Onapito is one person who has exercised leveled articulation, much as he represents the ruling government.
He doesn't.
Onapito works for Nile
Where's my paycheck? I need to go and pay.
No, can we listen, please? Let's listen.
Evidence maturity compared to other panelists you've always brought in.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Abdullah. Secondly,
Yes, please.
I am very surprised that we Ugandans are good or best at forgetting history. A lot of things have been packaging in, but to your surprise or to our surprise, in the 60th day, Uganda will not have the latest history. They will instead have mere things that come around because government is so smart in bringing in issues that divert them from the issue. So that is one worry that I have, that Ugandans are good at forgetting history, we don't compile history, and we are taken up by present things much as important. Thirdly,
Would you point to a specific thing that has been thrown in and is taking up people now?
come again?
What is it that government has thrown in and people have been taken up by that?
For instance, right now, we are all eyeing the proceedings of this petition, isn't it?
Yes.
Two other issues have come in about the church persons, the church leaders coming in to have some effort.
To lead negotiations.
As we say right now.
Yes.
But very soon, or tomorrow, after tomorrow, there will come another technical planning thing that is going to divert the attention of the Ugandans who have been very critical in following issues which are present. So it's only my prayer that Ugandans change away from that spirit.
Thank you.
I thank you, Bwana Mangusha, and thank you, that gentleman, Napito. Keep up. I wish we have more than 2 people who can really keep Uganda level.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Let's take another call on the line. Hello. Wait, do we have another call on the line? Yeah, hello? Yes. Hello. Hello. I think that person is not ready. Can we have another caller? Do we have someone else? Yes, hello. Hello. Well, Honor, you got your compliments. Honor was a victim of very harsh calls, I think, a few shows back.
He represents the government. I didn't know Nabito represents the government.
I just
But
need
Charles,
to go and pick my paycheck one of these days.
Yes. Well, I think people are watching. They should prepare your paycheck and they should prepare an Easter check for you, consolidating all the work you have been doing. Yes. Yes.
Yes. I think.
Do you have another? We have a call on the line, I think. Hello. Hello.
Hello?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I want to participate in the program.
Your name and where you're calling from?
Yeah, my name is Dr. Mbwenga.
Yes, doctor.
Yeah.
Yes, go ahead.
From Chanja.
Go ahead.
So, according to what's happening in Uganda, you know, political crisis is everywhere in Africa. So Uganda is just an example of one of those who have been happening in the neighboring countries.
Okay.
We are listening.
So you don't need to have an intellectual laziness. Rising up does not mean rioting. I need, you know, petition they are doing now will not change anything from what has been there. So you just need to come up as a team and stand up as one to grow. You understand?
Okay.
Because there are
Yes.
different comments that may come that will distort the system. That's not the right thing. Because I'm a Cambodian, you know,
Yes,
in my
please.
country we witness maybe terrorist attacks that are made by politics, you know. So we don't need to copy this. I love Uganda. Uganda is a good country. You need to stand up as one. Intellectuals have to respect themselves. You know, to be an aggregate is not a daily job.
Thank
And
you.
study-
Yes. Thank you, Doctor, and thank you for sharing that experience from Cameroon and what we need to do. We have another call on the line. Hello. Hello. Hello.
Talk.
Hello.
Yes, go ahead and talk to us.
Yes, good evening.
Good evening. Your name and where you're calling from?
My name is Pasara.
Yes, please.
I just wanted to say that you guys, I'm a lady. You guys, you do the talking when we do the voting for President 7. Thank you.
I'm not sure I had that well. Did you guys hear?
No.
No, I didn't.
So do you guys do the talking and something? I missed that. We have another call on the line. Hello. Hello.
Hello.
Yes, sir.
Hello.
Yes, we can hear you. Go ahead and tell us your name and where you're calling from. Keep your question or comment brief.
Yes, my name is Andy.
Yes, Andy.
Yeah. I'm calling from Nalia.
Yes, please go ahead and tell us.
I think our argument should be what should be done other than looking at the history. Let's address the current issues. I like what Ona is doing really, that the West doesn't matter because we need to clean our house. Let's stop thinking that the neighbors will always come and help us. We need to learn to analyze our own issues, take our own destiny. How are we going to reduce the taxes? Well, you know, you got all of Africa. We are supposed to be feeding the world. That means let's plan as an agricultural country. We should be planning to help our farmers to produce an income, create jobs, but not always thinking about the West. The West has nothing to do with us. So I think my brother, father, my doctor, Besigye should accept that he has lost the election. Let's work together and take Uganda to the next step. You know, this thing of defiance, pushing, no retreat, no surrender, doesn't work. That is not what the world is nowadays.
Thank
you
you,
have to
Andy.
learn to retreat, reorganize, and go to the next level.
Thank you, Andy. Of course, that's your opinion.
Exactly.
The other people have different opinions. Let's just pick one more caller and we'll get out of here. Hello.
Hello.
Yes, sir.
Can I speak to the moderator?
Yes, go ahead.
Hello.
Hello, we can hear you. You're live on air. Tell us your name and where you're calling from and keep your question or comment brief.
Okay. My name is Jackson,
Yes, Jackson.
and I'm calling from Besigye.
Yes, please, go ahead with your comment.
I first of all would like to appreciate the panel because I feel they are at a level ground like the previous. I wish we could have more of such panelists. Then I would like also to feel that Ugandans should settle down and start working the head. We don't have to keep politicking. If we are sure that the winner, let's leave it to the court and let the winner take it all and the country moves on. We need to work. We need to move the country forward. I am for peace. I'm not for violence and all those. We need to move forward. The West, the Europeans should not be able to, come and rule us or take over. No, we can determine the future of our country, and we have lots to do as a country. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jackson. I think Jackson will be our last caller. Gentleman said he congratulated the panel. And thank you very much to you all, our viewers, especially those of you who managed to get through to call us. I know there are many who are trying to get through to call and are not being successful. I do receive your feedback often, and when we have opportunity, we'll be able to share what you want to say, or maybe you keep trying, you will be able to get through. As we wrap up this discussion, your last word.
Yes, the Supreme Court hearing of the presidential election petition came to a close yesterday. Quite a grueling experience for us who covered every proceeding of it. I'm anxious to read the ruling of the court, not to the extent of who wins or loses the petition, but to the extent that I think some of the arguments raised and you know, the involvement of the Friends of Court from Makerere University it will really shape our democratic journey as a country and constitutionalism.
Well, let me just make an exception here. I received a message from Wafula Ogoto. He's the
leader of opposition.
He's the leader of opposition in Parliament and a senior member of the Forum for Democratic Change. He says,
Hi,
the rogue...
our elder, how are you? Hope
Yes.
you're recovering well from your loss.
He said the rogue regime spent shillings 100 billion to prepare to spill cold blood of citizens. We prepared for peaceful civic activities, and those are coming, aimed at disabling their work. Yes, he said this before, that in preparation for potential post-election violence, the investment in police,
must be hefty.
anti-riot gear, and the military to prepare for whatever the government feared would be the reaction of this defiance campaign. He invested over 100 billion Uganda shillings. And interestingly, like what happened in 2001, the machines rolled in just a few days to elections. Even this time around, there was a rolling in of machines just before elections.
Sam Seven is a good student of Milton Obote. You know, in 1987, he promised if the election is not free and fair, I'll go to the bush. The election transpired, it wasn't free and fair in the eyes of many, and Obote took that lightly. Museveni walked to the bush, and 5 years later, Obote was out of power.
Well, I've listened to Tamale Mirun. I think one of the episodes I saw of Tamale Mirun, and I agreed with. He said when students were coming for holidays, Yoweri Museveni was going to the jungles of the Frelimo liberated areas to learn how to shoot guns. When he took a trip, if you read his book, Sowing the Mustard Seed, the second edition, he says when he took a trip, when he finally succeeded in getting a trip to North Korea, organized by the I think by the Tanzanian government, he made one demand, which he made sure was achieved. He said he wanted to learn how to shoot a pistol. So when his colleagues, the people he had gone with, were going shopping, sightseeing, and other things, they got him a colonel in the Korean army who taught him how to shoot a pistol, and he kept a pistol. So Tamale Murundi says, whether the election had been rigged or not, an occasion would have come.
Well, Charles, what it tells us is that essentially we have a military regime in Uganda today and has been in power all this long time. Museveni has built his rule under on the basis of violence and of the military, with a veneer of civilian authority, with a facade of you know, being a democratic civilian government, but yet fundamentally it's based on the capacity to control the means of violence. And we see this today with all the heavy deployment around this city. But you have to ask yourself, for how long can this go on? Is this really sustainable? I don't think that it is sustainable, because you see, in the 21st century, government has to, in a considerable way, depend on the will of the people more than the show of might of violence.
Okay.
Charles, for me, I think out of the Supreme Court ruling, whatever pronouncements the judges will make, out of the ongoing discussions by the church leaders, the elders, the women leaders, there will be, one of the things that should happen should be some kind of constitutional amendment to remove winner take it all. All these arguments for calm, for peace, cannot be sustainable if you have winner take it all, whereby people will get state power and flout it in your face and make it so hard to be a peaceful and happy opposition. In a country where survival is really a game, you need everyone who has staked their life in politics should not lose completely. Imagine a person like WAF and other leaders in FDC whom I saw being arrested with Dr. Besigye when they were going through Kunjiri and what have you. And now they are wiped out. Much as their leaders got 35% of the popular support. I think, not power sharing, but I think we need to create an opposition which is not in the cold, which somehow has a role in the politics of the country as they wait for the opportunity. Whether it's 40 years, they should never feel totally in the cold. They should not be criminalized.
Well, the problem with that is, I mean, that seems to look at politics as, you know, and you know, it means to living.
No,
people like Wafula
politics
if you have people like the Honorable
beyond the
Wafula
idealism, Ivan, it's a survival. I mean, people,
and that's what we need to change, because
we can't change it overnight.
We need to have people like Wafula who go to politics after successful career and you know, business acumen, and even if they lose on the political arena, they still have a fallback position and can be able to contribute even after losing.
I will be okay with that if we say, let's make Parliament honorary.
I think what he's talking
let's
about.
make Parliament honorary, such that whether you win or you lose, it's really public service. It's not about earning income. It's not about entitlements.
but
so long as politics remains about entitlements, you can't say that someone should not struggle for entitlement.
I think there's room for an argument that says the opposition doesn't need to be demonized if you're going to have a decent country to live in. I think that's the argument that Ona is raising. That even when you have an opposition, create a situation where the opposition can feel proud. Not when they're being thrown over pickups and
when opposition is not criminalized the way it is today.
Because I think it diminishes the whole sense of leadership.
But Charles, what Ona is forgetting is that his suggestion is totally at odds with the politics of Museveni. You see, Museveni's politics is politics of co-optation and buying opponents.
Gentlemen,
but he can't allow that.
After Museveni is gone.
It's a Sunday night. People have to work tomorrow, so we need to get we need to let them go. Thank you very much, gentlemen, for making time for the show. Thank you very much to all our viewers, and especially those of you who called us and each one who listened in. Thank you very much to our production team, and to wish you all a happy Easter next Sunday. Most likely we'll be here, but we'll see how the week goes, and of course we'll be waiting. There are people who postponed their New Year because they're waiting for February 18th. February 18th arrived, they postponed, they have been waiting for the court. Now they can't even celebrate Easter because they have to wait
for 31st March.
For 31st March. So we'll see what happens, and we'll be bringing that discussion to you. From me, have a good night.